Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. This episode is basically a continuation of where we left things off during the live stream. At the very end of it, I was sending a refueling, or rather resupplying mission over to, well, starting with MINMUS and then the moon. The MINMUS is going to be sort of the test run for the design over here. And I was pressed for time, so I was trying to rush things, and I was automating a lot more stuff sort of haphazardly. And as a result, everything was going to become super inefficient. So I just called it there and I said, you know what? I'm going to relaunch it. I'm going to do things more carefully and more precisely after the stream when we've actually got more time to be careful. So here is our design. It does have a ridiculous sort of oversized fairing on the front, but at the same time, I think it looks kind of cool. Sort of a Star Trek-y kind of vibe going on here. I did forget again I was going to derate the engines a bit just because the thrust to weight ratio is a scooch high right now, but that's okay. I don't actually think we're getting that much atmospheric drag going on. I think overall we're going to be just fine. We've got about 15 seconds left before the side tanks run out of fuel, and then we'll get jettisoned about a moment after that. Fairing-wise, yeah, we're still good there. That's going to detach there. And that is all fine. We are close to when we were going to want to start to jettison that fairing. There we go. Those are the side engines. And there goes the fairing as well. And I like detaching that at about 30,000. At that point, the atmosphere is pretty thin, and the biggest problem at that point is, hey, can we shed some weight? Weight is the thing that's slowing you way more than atmospheric pressure once you get above 30. At least, you know, based on my personal sort of rule of thumb going on there. We're currently flying from the Probodobodyne over there. Once we do detach this and we go to the next stage, we're going to be flying via this little mech jeb here. We're just going to say control from here in terms of getting orientation, because that's the way our engines are pointing. Apoapsis is coming up nicely. We're targeting about 100,000, which is going to come in soon. I am using the mech jeb auto ascent here so that I could do the intro and focus on the talking as opposed to the actual piloting of the ship. I do love the idea of sending these sort of non-aerodynamic things. Once they're in space, it doesn't matter what they look like, or even if they're flying sort of sideways in a sense. Makes no difference anymore. So we're about to pop into space here. We're going to deploy our solar panels like so. And as soon as we're facing towards the correct maneuver to circularize, MechJeb should warp us, and then we'll be circularized. And then we're going to take over manual control at that point. We've done, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of takeoffs here, and they don't really change, and they do require a fair amount of focus to get right, which means I can't talk while we're doing the takeoff. So I quite like getting back to the phase where we're auto-launching the ascent there. Obviously still need a really careful design. And I do believe, actually, you probably need a slightly better and more careful design if you're using the automatic thing, because you can't adapt your flight profile on the fly based on the sort of feedback that you're getting based on your ship. So you have to be very careful and relatively conservative with your designs, I think, if you're going to automate anything like that. Okay, circularization has completed. Whoa, 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 whoa. Control from here. I was a little bit slow doing that, so again, we're going just a scooch sideways, but really didn't waste any true delta V doing that. There we go. Now we're facing the correct way, and the circularization maneuver will start once again. And I don't know, I love the way that this flies forward like this. Sort of like a TIE fighter a bit. We could probably make proper TIE fighter designs, actually. Yeah. Oh, we should try to do one of those. Anywho, we are launching more or less into the plane of MINMUS. So we're just at a sort of a 6 degrees-ish inclination, which, assuming we launched at the right time, and I think we did, we should be relatively similar here. If we check here, 0.6 degrees off. That's not bad. That's actually really, really close to launching a MINMUS. So basically, you have to line things up such that, also, are my antennas? This one's always on, which is good, and I suppose I can go and turn on the other one for even longer range. If I can click on it, there we go, activate that. Uses up a little bit more fuel, but it's not too bad. But yeah, so the Kerbal Space Center is over here, and what you need to do is wait until it's basically lined up with the place where that yellow line is the MINMUS orbit. So you want the MINMUS orbit to be crossing over the sort of normal equatorial plane of the Kerbal Space Center, and then you launch with your plus 6 degrees or negative 6 degrees to end up basically in the correct plane. And the bonus of that is that way you don't have to do any radial or anti-radial burns in space. The easiest way to do a rendezvous with MINMUS is if we're on the same plane. So it's tempting once you circularize to go and burn normal or anti-normal to line everything up. And in fact, that makes your encounter much easier, especially if you don't have a whole lot of experience doing it before. The problem is, you use a lot of delta V changing your orbit at that point. Whereas if you just launch with the correct direction, then you're going to have a much easier time. Alternatively, what you do is, if you're not in the right plane, it's okay. You still do the sort of Homan-ish transfer where you raise your apoapsis basically to encounter MINMUS somewhere, but you might not see the encounter. You have to sort of know, you have to be confident that you're doing it vaguely right, and then sort of halfway through, then you can do a bit of an inclination change to meet up and down. But that's really tricksy, so it's way better if you can just launch with the correct inclination in the first place, which we are more or less there. Over here is our descending node. We could go and make a slight adjustment once we get there, but I don't think we're going to need to do that. So, standard convention, we're going to put MINMUS at about 12 o'clock-ish, and then right around... Now, we have relatively modest thrust to weight, so we're going to have to start our maneuver maybe a little earlier than usual. So, somewhere around here, which would be a little earlier than seeing MINMUS rise in the sky, which, just like the moon, is the way you can normally eyeball your launch to MINMUS. Hopefully we don't interact with the moon. That would be very annoying. I mean, not a game breaker. Oh, there we go. So there's an approach there. So now I'm going to use just my maneuver node editor just to tweak the time. You can drag this, by the way. If you grab the middle circle here, you can drag it forward or backwards on the orbit and adjust. But I find it much easier to not F up by doing this. So we're going to leave Kerbal a little bit later, and then give it a little bit more thrust again, and we will get an encounter there. Now, are we encountering it on the right side? Focus you, and I literally do mean the right side, because then we will get into a counterclockwise orbit, which is the ideal one for our landing. So right now, the answer is no. If I just switch the departure time, so we leave a little bit later, we will encounter MINMUS from the other side. We could probably also use a little less delta V and still get there, but it can be a little tricksy. So that is looking pretty good. We'll make an adjustment once we leave anyway, because there's no way we'll get an exact precise burn regardless, so we're going to have to make some tweaks. Do we want to do... This is not really the ideal time to do normal, anti-normal burns, in a sense, except that if you're combining it with another maneuver, you actually use... Like, you can see my total delta V is barely changing by throwing in a little bit of this. And then change the departure time a little bit. Oops, we lose our encounter completely. That's not good. Okay. Well, we should be able to find it again somewhere. Do one of those. And just find a different spot for it, because you can see the approach indicators there. We're still launching basically in the correct plane. I think it might in the end... Oops, that's not the one I want. It might in the end be a good idea to simply take the first maneuver and then make the normal, anti-normal adjustments along the way to tweak exactly how we're going to encounter MINMUS. And... they're still getting closer together. Could have changed the time. There we go. We've got an encounter again. And keep doing this to bring it to the other side. And we're actually pretty good shape here. Let's do that. And flatten that out a little bit more. There we are. Pretty nice. And again, we're not going to make this burn exactly, but in theory, if we did this burn exactly as we're planning the maneuver, we will end up over here in MINMUS, and that would be a glorious, glorious thing. So, this is a probe. Let's go ahead and use our flight computer. Even if it's not a probe, we're going to do the NASA thing. A lot of flight computers, not that many manual things, or the computer will tell us exactly how to do the burn, which we could also do manually with the maneuver here, but we're going to face towards the node. This is important is if we lose our connection, because it's an unmanned ship. So in 7 minutes, we're going to perform that maneuver. I'm just going to allow the ship to turn itself the right direction. Although, I'm trying to remember, is this the flight computer that has, like, a really, 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 really hard time with being controlled from somewhere else? I feel like that's the case. I think this flight computer... it's coming in there. Let me do a quick little time warp to kill our rotation. Will you settle on there properly? Okay, maybe I wasn't giving you enough credit. Maybe it's just this shape makes it very awkward to rotate the way you want. But you did end up at the maneuver node, and hopefully you can keep that locked. Let's do a quick save before we time warp. Also, just in case the this flight computer actually does F up and get confused about things. Oh, we get more gravity scans. Transmit. Nice. A little bit more free science. It's only 6 per, but that's something. There we go. Bring you down. Time warp some more. It'll kill the time warp right around here and then start to burn shortly after. There we go, and it is keeping on to the maneuver. Good. It's going to be a 2.5 minute burn because our thrust to weight ratio is very poor on this. It may have been a good idea to bring a 4 set of these engines, because at that point our thrust to weight would have been closer to 1, which should certainly make these burns a lot easier. In our test, based on MINMUS gravity, this is more than enough thrust to weight ratio to land. Although I suppose for the moon mission, we actually will need at least a 4 set of engines, because of course the gravity on moon is a lot higher than on MINMUS, but this should be fine. And by doing this, it means the entire stage is a little bit lighter, so we have slightly more delta V overall. I suspect we will have to make some adjustments for the moon mission one way or to other. Actually, for the MINMUS mission, I probably should have used 4 Twitch engines instead of 2 Thuds. That would probably be even more efficient in terms of delta V and slightly more controlly. Not much more in the way of thrust to weight. No, thrust to weight ratio, of course, will increase as we burn some of our fuel here. We're going to burn nearly half, maybe a third of our total fuel just doing this maneuver here. It's a very cool shot, though. I love the way this looks. It is so oddball. I'm going to make more things that just don't look like spaceships because they're interesting. I don't know. I also love the fact that we've correctly balanced the center of gravity with the center of thrust over here. Much easier design to do this on. That was a big problem last time because my actual base module was hard to balance because the fuel tank, I think I only had 1 fuel tank. I think I was using one of these for monopropellant and one of them for fuel tank. Maybe I had another fuel tank on there. And as you burn fuel, your weight distribution changes. Here, these are both fuel tanks, so they're both burning down at the same rate, which means the weight should stay more or less even. Hopefully. I mean, there's some other components there, and maybe removing weight out of these will mean the other components become a little bit more important weight-wise, but I think we're okay. I suppose I could have tested. I could have emptied both of these canisters and then seen where our center of weight was there. See if there was a major difference. Actually, that would have been a great idea. I should have done that. Anyway, we're almost done our burn. If we go and center onto our ship, we can see our growing orbit over here. It's going to move faster and faster and faster. You need less delta V to go from here to here, like significantly less. Like 10% less to go from here to here than to get from there to there in the first place. And now it's going to continue to grow even faster. And faster and faster and faster. And somewhere around there, it'll do the encounter and then stop. That is so not our planned maneuver. Okay. Yeah, kill that maneuver. Not exactly what we're hoping for, but it's a thing. I'm going to turn that off. We're going to use, for the fine-tuning, we'll use the Smart ASS, which there is, of course, the problem, though, hold on, as I'm thinking about this, of, again, if we don't have a live signal, it's not going to work. So, no, we sort of do have to use the flight computer. All right, let's focus on MINMUS and see exactly what we're looking like. Actually, that's pretty goddamn good. Even though, that's weird, because it looked like, well, I guess because a slight difference here has a massive difference over there. So it looked like we were far off, but we're basically dead on. Nice. All right, so we really have nothing to do, really, until we get into the MINMUS orbit. We could do a fine-tuning run to... I like how we're just tumbling. Because why not? Why would we need to bother killing rotation? We could do a fine-tuning run maybe partway through, just to help bring the orbit a little bit closer. I wouldn't want to do it from too far away, just because, again, just a little bit of noise and, you know, floating point errors, which is a type of mathematics in computers, could lead to a slight difference, especially as we time warp. What's going on with those orbits? Very weird. But let's go ahead. For now, we'll just time warp. I think we're going to be fine. I'm just going to time warp to the sphere of influence change. And I think that's going to be totally okay. I'll actually add it this way. Boom. as opposed to trying to click way over there. So we are warping ahead. I do have a reminder here for our Eve crash probe, which is currently, so I know it's a scary name, but we have a probe, which is right here, which is on its way to an encounter with Eve. Yeah, that was a really poor departure, because I should be on the inner side here. I should never be on the outside here. I did a really, 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 really poor escape with my crash probe, but that's okay. And basically, I just put an arbitrary distance away. It happens to be at the apoapsis of the sun, but it's some arbitrary distance away, because right now the probe's actually having a hard time keeping a connection to Kerbin, because the dish that it uses to connect has a very, very narrow cone, basically, for its signal. So when it's really, really, really close to Kerbin like this, it's only rarely is there a satellite right between it and mission control, which is what it's pointing to. But as it gets further away, then the cone will be big enough that it should always have something. Anyway, I guess we fast forward. Woo! It's probably going to be too fast. We had problems with that in our test. This is interesting. It looks like we won't even encounter MINMUS. I love it when it does that. Now, we should. What is this predicting? Something we don't know. It's going to deflect. It's going to come around. It's going to deflect around the moon, come around Kerbin, slingshot right out of the solar system. Or something crazy like that. Seems a bit unlikely. Push comes to shove, what we can do is when we get close to MINMUS, if it's not actually going to capture us, what we'll do is, we set it as a target already. I can go and set this to target mode, and literally we'll just aim at MINMUS and burn in that direction, which will probably be all we need to actually get like right within its sphere of influence. Oh, I missed the science. Boo. We haven't done anything to our orbit, and this time, unlike the last man mission, we're not actually ejecting any supplies, so it doesn't make sense that we should miss our target. We were like bang on. That other maneuver was perfect. I guess the biggest question is, do we have a connection? Oh, that's a little tricksy. Now, we will have a signal when we get close to these satellites, assuming they have line of sight to Kerbin. We really should be catching the sphere of influence. Let me do a quick save. Let me pop out to mission control. And a lot of people have said for very fast time warps, you should just do it from mission control in the first place, because it's less likely to bug out on you, which is what I'm concerned about right here. I mean, we had a beautiful maneuver plan. It should have brought us to within 80 kilometers of MINMUS. But that's assuming we get caught in the orbit in the first place. So let's check mission control again. I mean, we can't control anything from here. Yeah. Eventually, we're on an escape trajectory from Kerbin. But we're not! It's driving me crazy. This was part of the issue, if I recall correctly, when we were doing this flight in the first place. I'm thinking something is having trouble calculating because of our shape or where we're controlling from or something of that nature. We're still controlling from here right now. Yes, we are. And we currently still have no signal. All right, well. We're supposed to encounter the sphere of influence in an hour and a half. So let's see how that works out. Well, good news is we actually do have a connection. Unfortunately, these satellites are clumped, but they're talking back here. So in 12 minutes, we're supposed to encounter it. So what's going to happen? I'm going to let it go for 12 minutes. Actually, it'll be like 30 seconds after that we were supposed to encounter it. Okay. So we're still not on an encounter. So what I'm going to do is, let me pull up the smartass. We're going to face our target. We're going to go point towards target. And I'm literally just going to burn towards it for a couple of seconds to try to get closer. Hey! Look at that. I think it's because MINMUS is such a lightweight thing. It's sort of easy to miss it. Although, it's hard to believe that we would have missed MINMUS. It looks like we were coming so goddamn close to it. But I don't know. Okay. And the sphere of influence change is going to happen. There it is. Okay. Step 1 complete. That's good. Step 2 is going to be to circularize our orbit, which is pretty easy. We can I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to add a maneuver. I'm going to say, hey, would you mind snapping to the periapsis, which is there. Wonderful. And just burn retrograde. Did I move it? I think I accidentally dragged it. There we go. Now it's fine. Burn retrograde. And just get into a relatively circular orbit. It's actually really not the end of the world, because we're going to have to figure out exactly how we're going to approach our landing site. 262 delta V, that is fine. Again, we have nothing in MechJeb that is currently controlling, so our flight computer, just in case we lose our connection, which is entirely possible, we might be on the wrong side of the satellites and of the base. We have to program in, and hope to God this thing works, to face the maneuver node. Now, we don't have any mono, no. So we'll not be doing any RCS stuff. Yeah, for some reason it has a really, really hard time finding out. It can't, okay, once it's on, it's fine, but it's having a hard time recognizing which is the correct axis to start moving towards the maneuver point. Once it's at the maneuver, it seems to be able to lock it fine, but the flight computer definitely gets confused by our shape. I don't know if it's because of the control from, or the orientation of this, or the orientation of our RCS, or not RCS, the reaction wheels. I'm not sure. So let's go ahead and finish this episode by circularizing, by getting into orbit. So we can go ahead and fast forward, because the flight computer, assuming we don't go too fast, because sometimes that's what another thing that happened on stream, is a flight computer actually just flew by. It's supposed to unwarp when we get close. So let's leave it at just 100 here, because it actually missed it, because I think I went too fast and it just, like, too many processing ticks. Let's go ahead and transmit that. I mean, we have to be a little bit careful about our power, but we're good right now. What do you want? Oh, science data from space around MINMUS. Oh, I could have done that anytime by just switching to a satellite. I think I forgot to do that when we ended. But that's all right. Okay. Let's go to 50. Again, it should slow us down automatically when it's time to do the maneuver. And actually, we still have a live connection right now, so if we need to take over, we could. Orientation is good. Burn has started. And pretty slow burn. Our thrust to weight looks better here. I mean, I guess it's thrust to weight. It's not thrust to mass. Although, what is SLT? That's actually something I don't know. So anyway, at a 15 plus thrust to weight for landing on MINMUS, we're going to be in great shape. It still means some of these maneuvers are a bit slow. Although, our overall speed is quite a bit slower, because MINMUS's orbit, or gravity is so low, our actual orbital speed is relatively modest, which means we don't need a whole lot of delta V to make a change. So I guess it does all combine together. And yeah, then it fails to try to kill rotation. So listen, flight computer, thank you very much for your good work, but I think that's going to be it. So we are going to have to bring this down, perhaps manually. Although, oh yeah, right, because we don't have the KOS on this. It's supposed to have a KOS module, but it may have gotten left off. Plus, there's difficulty in actually arranging the landing. So in the next episode, we are going to try to land exactly where our base is, which is going to be a pretty substantial challenge, because we don't have wheels. On my Copper Top missions, I made sure to include wheels so I could land nearby and then roll over. Here, I got to land as is, close enough. Although, I suppose worst comes to worst, I can always, like, disassemble the ship using KIS stuff and then, like, reassemble it over there. Could easily do that sort of thing. So, you're going to be horizontal negative. Try to lock onto there, and then we'll get back to you. All right, thank you very much for watching another episode of Let's Play of the Kerbal Space Program. Next time, we attempt to land this sucker. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.